Module 2, Be a Failure. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. That's a quote from an iconic figure in world sport, Michael Jordan, a guy who didn't make the high school basketball team. He was a failure and he didn't like it. He could have drifted off into oblivion, but he told himself he wanted to do what he wanted to do. He didn't want others to dictate to him, so he tried again and failed, and tried again. He worked so hard for himself, he ended up succeeding. And that's going to be a common story throughout this program. Rocky Balboa, the actor Sylvester Stallone, is another one of life's failures. His parents divorced. He was put into foster homes and expelled from 13 schools. Couldn't get a job. He was skint. No one wanted to give him a chance as an actor. He was rejected over 1,000 times from agencies looking for actors. 1,000 times. But he kept going back. He got so skint he sold his wife's jewellery, and then he did something he never thought he would do. He sold his dog. He wanted $50 to get some money to eat, but ended up getting $25. He was desperate, and after watching a fight on TV, decided to write his own movie. Now remember, he wasn't a writer. The film was about an underdog fighter overcoming all obstacles to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Then he couldn't get back in. Everyone said the story was too predictable, too lame. White boxer overcomes adversity to win the heavyweight boxing title of the world. Really? Then a break. Amazingly, one company offered him $125,000 for his script. He told them he would sell it to them if they gave him the lead role. They laughed. Who wanted to see a short Italian kid with a disfigured mouth who couldn't even talk properly? They upped the offer to $250,000. He refused again. Then they offered him $325,000 not to star in his own movie. Now, just think about that. He was skint. He couldn't get a job. He'd sold his wife's jewellery and even his own dog to get some money. And here he is refusing $325,000 because he wanted to be the lead in the film. Now, eventually they came back and said, fine, we'll let you star in the movie, but we're only going to pay you $30,000 and points in the movie. He said yes. The film took $200 million at the box office and an Oscar to boot. The rest is history. The first thing he did when he got his $30,000 advance was to buy back his dog, but he had to pay $15,000 plus a part in the Rocky movie for the guy who'd bought the dog in the first place. Iconic TV host Oprah Winfrey certainly didn't have it easy either. She was fired from her television reporting job as she was deemed not suitable for television. Black and overweight didn't cut it, with TV executives looking for young, white and slim. Oprah could have slipped into obscurity, but she had a determination that said, I'm going to do everything I can to succeed. She's now a billionaire and one of the most well-known and highest-paid TV presenters. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was a young Swedish player of mixed nationality. His parents split up when he was young. Zlatan lived with his dad, who was an alcoholic, and rarely was there anything but beer in the fridge. They grew up on a council estate in one of the poorest parts of town, and Zlatan, as well as being a bit of a mischievous lad and a bike thief, would train hard at football with a determination to show everyone he was the best. He's now one of the most highly paid footballers ever, having played at Barcelona, Manchester United, Ajax, AC and Inter Milan and LA Galaxy. He is famous for his audacious self-confidence. Just watch any YouTube clip of this guy to see what I mean. The Beatles were a 70s music band who were turned down from record labels because they were deemed not to be commercial enough, and then went on to become one of the most commercially successful bands ever. Steve Jobs, who started Apple, ended up getting the sack. What about this failure? A few short years after graduating from college, her worst nightmares were realised. In her own words, I'd failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it's possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. Coming out of this failure stronger and more determined was the key to her success. This young lady was nearly penniless, depressed, divorced, and had to raise a child on her own. She was also on benefits back then, whilst writing up a manuscript of a book. Adding to that, 12 publishers rejected the manuscript. This is J.K. Rowling, the author of a Harry Potter global brand, estimated now to be worth $25 billion, with her own share in excess of $1 billion. Later, we'll see the story of another failure, Eminem, and share a 7-step guide to how he become a success. Things you can do to build your success too. The list of life's failures goes on, and most of these failures come from deprived backgrounds with little opportunity or prospects. There's something about having a tough upbringing that when you learn how to succeed and are willing to work at being successful, carries a drive that helps these people succeed on a scale that no one, not even them, thought possible. Why you must fail. I'll say this straight away. You should fail. It's good for you. Not only that, it's pretty essential if you want to succeed. Now, that might sound a little crazy, but bear with me on this. No one likes to fail, and it's that fear of failure that stops many people from even attempting to do something they would value. I repeat that because it's essential for your future success. More people fail to attempt to do something for fear of failure than go for their dreams, and that's a real shame. Ask an elderly person what they regret most about their life, and they rarely regret something they did. It's the things they didn't do, the things they would have liked to do but for whatever reason never tried, that they regret the most. And that's human nature. We fear failure by default. In the next module, we'll talk about something called self-handicapping behaviour. You'll know that many people make excuses for failure, even before they fail. It's a self-defense mechanism to save your ego, your self-esteem and your pride. It's not until you see how many times some of the most successful people in the world failed before they succeeded that you begin to realise that failure is very much part of any journey to success. It's by putting yourself in positions to fail that you grow and develop and learn how to succeed. A big lesson you can take away from this program is to actively seek out these challenging situations that might be a little step out of your comfort zone. So rather than avoiding difficult situations, you start to relish them and welcome the opportunities to fail. And there's a pattern to what they did. And in this program, you're going to learn that pattern. The people we've already mentioned are very much people you know well and probably icons in their industries and beyond. Multimillionaires, and guess what? They all failed, some over and over again before they succeeded. Their story could be yours. People who fail and stop trying, or as is the case more often, don't try in the first place. They avoid situations that might be embarrassing if they fail, never go on to achieve worthwhile success. And the crazy thing is that by going through obstacles and difficult times, you end up discovering what makes you a winner. You learn from mistakes if you have the awareness and drive to succeed. As an exercise, ask yourself if you've avoided doing something in the past that you would have liked to do, but you just had too many doubts about your ability to do that thing, so you never even tried. What about a good idea you had that you just left on the back burner, in your imagination, instead of taking some action to see if you could develop it? Every successful person has had at least one thing in common. They've got things wrong over and over again before finding the right solution. And even then, as you'll see from our examples, they still continue to fail. The point is, they never stop failing because they're always trying. And in the end, they succeed more than they fail. And more importantly, succeed because they failed. Mind activity. Lots of the people we've mentioned came from terrible backgrounds. Some were on benefits, others had the door slammed in their face time and time again. They never accepted the failure as an end, but a necessity on the way to success. Think of one of the situations you fouled out. What did you do next? Generally, when you're confronted with a challenge, what's your response? Do you give up, make bad decisions or choices, or do you keep going with a determination to succeed when you feel everything is against you? And finally, bearing in mind the actions of the people we've spoken about in this module and their refusal to let setbacks and failures define them, ask yourself this question. How might you now approach a situation you might previously have avoided? Speak soon.